Hello. So this evening we are taking a look at the stock Asobo Cessna 172 Skyhawk in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. This is the version with the G1000 navigation suite. So we're going to go and get it ready for flight, take it for a circuit and bring it back in again. And I'm going to show you step by step how to operate the aircraft from cold and dark. We're going to go right from a parking space in the simulator, so we have to do the walk around checks as well. I'll show you the view keys along the way to help you out, and we'll have a look around the airplane before we get started with the drone camera. So if you plug an Xbox controller in, the sticks on the Xbox controller will allow you to both translate the camera and rotate the camera on each stick using the analog sticks, which is how I'm able to fly the camera around the airplane so accurately. So you can see the aeroplane's actually modelled really nicely. This particular livery is for an aerial signage company, an advertising company. But a Cessna 172 is a 172 when it comes down to it, isn't it? So you can see it's got all the covers on at the moment. We're going to work our way around and go and remove those. So to do that, we're going to have to press Shift and X to get the drone camera back to normal. So press Shift and X and that puts us in the cockpit. Press Shift and C and that stands us outside. So if you repeatedly press Shift and C, you go from inside to outside of the aircraft. So once you are outside of the aircraft, if you press the right mouse button, you can use the pointer to click on some of these click spots that are indicated, and you can use W, A, S and D on the left side of your keyboard to walk around. Okay? So then we can hold the right mouse button down to rotate, to drag the mouse to rotate our view, and we can walk around the aircraft. So if you go and look in the settings of your simulator, you will also see in advanced options, there's an option to allow third-person view camera. Okay, so if we go back to the simulator, while you're in walk-around view, if you press backspace, it will toggle third-person view. Okay, so then you can walk around and actually see yourself. And notice he ducks and does all nice things when you get near the aeroplane. So when you get near some of these click spots, you will notice that they start animating, and that means you can click on them as long as you're close enough. So I'm going to press backspace to go first-person view here. So we're going to go and click on the cover for the pitot tube. We're going to go and click on the cover for the static tube there, and we're going to go and crouch down here. Click on the chocks to remove them and come into the front of the aeroplane and click on the covers for the engine and remove them. You don't have to do everything, but it is kind of nice to see how things work for this one time. So we'll walk around and we'll try some of these others out. So you can grab the ailerons and give them a wiggle. Notice once you've gone full range on wiggling a control surface, you get a green tick. You don't have to have these ticks. You can hide them. That's what the button's for down here, for toggle pins. And some of the control surfaces won't move. You're actually testing to see if you can wiggle it or not. Same with the flaps. Okay, so to get a tick on the flap, you try and wiggle the flap, and it either will or it won't. You can also try doors out to make sure that they're secured. And when you're finished doing your walk around, you can just go and press Shift and C, and that will put you inside the cockpit. Okay, so all of these keyboard combinations are detailed in the document that I've linked to, that you can get a copy of. So the major change from the previous version of the simulator is to move around the cockpit now. You now hold the Shift button down and press the numbers instead of Control. So Shift and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and so on will move you around the cockpit. Notice when you go for Shift 1, it hides the yoke for you, which is really nice. So if you notice when we go to a view further away, the yokes reappear automatically. If you want to reset your view at any point, press Shift and Space. Yeah? If you want to move up and down, the easiest way is Shift E and Shift Q. So Shift and E moves you up, Shift Q moves you down. And then by the same token, W, A, S and D will move you around the cockpit. Okay? On the other side of the keyboard, I, J, K and L will rotate you. So you can see how that works. So then Shift and Space will always bring you back, and Shift and E might give you a little bit more height. There are some default views as well around arranging the focal length of your camera that you're looking through. So if we press Shift and F9, we get what's called the IFR view. So it's a little bit more detailed at the top screen there and some of the switches. If we go Shift F10, we get the VFR view. So that's just a general view out of the windscreen. And again, it's pushed up in the air slightly. And Shift F11 gives you a landing view. So it's zooming in slightly over the nose. Okay, so Shift and Space again will pull us back. But notice, moving ourselves around the cockpit and those F9, F10 and F11 views are independent of each other. So normally you'd probably want it on Shift F10 to give you that focal length of how wide angle the camera is. That's what it's really controlling, is how wide an angle you can see. Okay, so let's go and move around the aircraft and get it ready for flight, shall we? So the first thing you're going to want to do when you get in the aeroplane is go into settings and make sure in the controls, for your given controls, whichever you've got, that you've got things mapped as you would like. Now, I have not changed any of the keyboard controls away from their defaults because I just want to learn it as it's been designed. I think you head for trouble if you try to change this into the old simulator. Okay, so if we resume, so I already know my controls are broadly set up correctly for what I want to do. So then we've done the walk around and we're now going to do the steps in the cockpit. So I'm going to press Shift and 5, which shows us this view of the center console on the floor. We're going to rotate the fuel selector to both tanks. Then we're going to make sure that the mixture knob is pulled out, and it is. We're going to press Shift and 1 to come back to the pilot's instruments. We're going to go and pull the standby battery switch down to test for a few seconds. Now, in the real world, they do this for about 20 seconds, but I don't think this is actually simulated to do anything in this version of the aeroplane, but there's no harm in doing it. And then once you're happy with that, you can arm it. So when the primary flight display comes on, our primary part of interest here is the electrical section. So you're looking for these numbers to be broadly correct. I've detailed it in the document. You're looking for things like on the E bus, the volts to be above 24 and the amps to be minus. And you're looking for the M bus for the volts to be 0. And you're looking, so again, some of this isn't really simulated very accurately, but it's good things to do if you want to follow the real world. Okay, so we can go and put the master battery switch to on. And then, before we do that, it's worth pointing out, you've got standby bat showing over here, which indicates that standby bat is being used. And we've got a caution there, look, because we took away the electricity. So if we go and put the battery and alternator switches on, the standby bat annunciation goes away. So what do we do first? We go and put the beacon lights on because we're going to go and start the engine in a moment. So then we're going to look just over here. You can drag with the right mouse button with the mouse to move your view around as well. We're going to push the throttle lever in 1/4 of an inch and mixture to rich. And then we're going to go and put the fuel pump on, which is back over here, for about 3 or 4 seconds. And then turn it back off again. Then we're going to go and put the mixture to lean, so bear with me. So not all the way to lean, about 30% of the way in. Then we're going to go and start the engine. Okay, so you can see immediately some of the needles start moving. Once the engine is running, you can go to rich. And you can play with the throttle to get it to about 1000 RPM. So to do this, you might have to play around with the views. So you can see the RPM there, and you can move the throttle. And you could do this with your controls as well. So if you've got mapped controls, we're just moving the throttle to get to 1000 RPM. At the moment, the simulator is a bit buggy for tuning control curves. So you kind of just do the best you can. Okay, so then we can press Shift and 1 to go to the pilot instrument panel. We can confirm that oil pressure is in the green or temperature is in the green. confirm you've got fuel in the tanks, and then we can go and turn the avionics buses on now. So the rest of the cockpit will fire up. So once the navigation screen is on, you can press the bottom right soft key and it pulls up the screen. If you want to go and move over there, press Shift and 2, and that will bring your view over to the navigation display. We are just going to do a very simple circuit around Western, but we're not going to program a flight directly into the G1000 today. We're going to cheat slightly. So before I got started, I actually went and looked at Navigraph to look at the visual circuit for Western. And then I went over to Little Nav Map and penciled it in where it goes. You could do this in Navigraph as well. And then I saved that as a PLN file. So within the simulator now, you can do some nice tricks. So there's a tablet in the cockpit. So if I go and press Shift and Space to center our view up, and we come in over here to look at the flight plan, we can scroll down on the tablet and we can load the flight plan directly into the tablet. So we'll load it from this PC, and I'll go to my documents folder and my little nav map files and my flight plans, and we got, here it is, Western to Western. So there's my flight plan loaded in from the file. If we go and click the plan button, we can see it on the map. If we go and change this map to the default map instead of the satellite map, and then zoom out slightly, so we can just use the mouse wheel to do that. So you can see that, yeah? So the really nice thing about this is not only can we load the flight plans into the tablet, on aeroplanes that support it, we can send the route straight to the avionics. So if I select that, and then we press Shift and Space to come back across, we can now see on our navigation display, we've got the route map for our circuit at Western. Okay, so there's quite a lot of steps there that I've jumped through, but I'm just showing you the art of the possible, really. That you can play with all of these systems and they all interoperate really nicely. You can actually go a step further than this. If you go and look at a web browser, it turns out the contents of the tablet in your aircraft is a website, really. That's how they've done it. And you can use it in a browser. You just go to planner.flightsimulator.com. So you can obviously choose your aircraft type, and you can program in your route, and it will actually make you an operational flight plan as well. So you can use this when you haven't even got the simulator running to go and plan out your flights. So I'm just showing you that as a bit of an item of interest, really. So if we wanted to go and open a flight plan that we've done in the past, we could go and click on this and we can open it, and it will zoom in. So I did a quick one there, look from Stansted up to Edinburgh, just to see how it worked, and it gives you a full flight plan. It's very, very good. Anyway, we're not going to be using that. We're going to be using the one in the aeroplane. So how do we get on with doing the rest of the procedure? So Shift and 1 brings us back to the pilot's instrument panel. We want to calibrate the altimeter. So the shortcut to do that is the comma key on your keyboard. So press comma and it will go and calibrate itself. It's already calibrated at the moment. I've turned the weather off for the purposes of today. So you can see it's already at 29.92 inches barometric pressure. So we're going to prepare to taxi now. So we're going to go and put the taxi light to on or up, and put the nav lights on as well. So if we were to go and have a look outside, we can press backspace to get the normal external view. And you should be able to now see we've got the beacon light flashing away, and we should have the lights. Nav lights should be on. They're quite dim in this bright sunshine, aren't they? Okay, so backspace will take us straight back inside the aeroplane. And we can go and taxi to the runway now. So let's go and press Shift and Space. And remember, we can use Shift and E to move our view up a little bit higher. We'll come off the parking brake and we'll turn hard right. So while you're taxiing around, you can move the view by holding the right mouse button down. So then once you get away from the parking area, you might want to test your tow brakes to make sure they're working, put the parking brake on, and then we might go and run through an engine run-up check. So if you do want to do a run-up check, they're fairly straightforward. All you're really going to do is take the engine up to 1800 RPM. So while we are on the parking brake, we're just going to ease the throttle forwards. So you're looking for 1800 RPM or thereabouts. That's close enough. So then you're going to, if we can pop the yoke off by just clicking on it, and we can switch back to the right and the left magnetos, and you're looking for variances between the two of them and between both of them. So there's obviously different tolerances for different aeroplanes. In the Cessna you're looking for no more than 150 drop in RPM. So come off the parking brake and we can go and taxi down. So once you are on the runway, we can go and put the strobes on and the landing lights on. Make sure everybody sees us coming. So we're going to go and just roll down the runway and then turn around, and we'll be going the opposite direction for our actual flight. So I'm deliberately not using the head tracking for this example flight, because I know a lot of people haven't got head tracking, and it is a huge advantage. I can't overstate how much it helps, but not everyone has it, so I'm not going to use it. So we're using the out-of-the-box key controls to control the aeroplane. We're not doing too great at rotating, are we? You can use differential braking as well, I think. But we're just using the out-of-the-box tow brake controls. So should we put the yoke back on so you get to see it while we're flying? So once we are lined up on the runway, we're just going to make sure we've got no warnings in the bottom right corner of the primary flight display. We would obviously go and check navigation and comm radios if we were doing this with air traffic control, which we're not. We would also go and check if we need to have the transponder on. So there's a button down here that does transponder, so we can go and put it on mode and then come back. And again, you can there's a whole another subject area about using the G1000s. I'm not going to cover them here. They've got tons of modes in them to do different things. So, final thing we do before charging off down the runway is go and put the pitot heat on, and we are off to the races. So, down in the cockpit, we make sure our mixture is rich, and it is. Just checking the checklist to make the flaps as required. For this big long runway, we are not going to need flaps. So, full power, here we go. So you want about 2300 RPM. You keep an eye on the throttle just to make sure that you're not going into the red. You can start to rotate at about 55 knots. So the airplane's taking off look very nicely straight away. And we're going to climb out to 1,000 feet. So while we are climbing out, we can be looking around at the lovely scenery whizzing by and our lovely co-pilot. And at Western we need to turn to 285 degrees for the circuit. Notice the radius on the map will change as we pick up speed for the turn, and what it's actually relating to is a standard rate turn. So I'll show you that in a moment. We're just moving a little bit off track, so we'll pull it back, and we've gone through 1,000 feet already. So let's pull the throttle back. So you will notice either side of the compass rose on the G1000 there's a white marker and there's a turn rate as you roll. So if you match your turn rate against the white marker, you get a standard rate turn. Okay, so we're going to be slightly late, It's the penalty of me talking about it, I'm afraid. And coming round to north, we're still high, look, so we'll just lose that speed as we go. Lose that altitude, I mean, as we go.
Don't sink, don't sink, don't
so again, we need to roll to align the turn rate for a standard rate turn, which is what this is plotting. So again, we're late. But it just shows you, how you can do that. We're coming back down to 1,000 feet, which is perfect. So I'm going to turn slightly more than I need to get us back onto the track. So in the real world, this would be a visual circuit, and you would be using landmarks as your turning places. And with head tracking, it's easy to do that because you can just, pop your view down over the side of the cockpit. It's a little bit harder without head tracking, so we're cheating a little bit and using the tools at our disposal. Getting a bit slow. Let's get this back to at least 95 knots. Okay, so the reason this is having a fit about the GPS direction is because there's a slight problem in the loaded plan. It doesn't like it. So there's all sorts of little wrinkles with the simulator at the moment, which obviously will get corrected in time. So as we approach the turn, we're going to do the same as last time and roll and try to get the turn rate to hit the first marker, which will give us a standard rate turn. While we're in the turn, we can start to descend and slow down. So something that's quite interesting about Tail Western is it's an offset approach as well. So we continue turning standard rate. And you will see there's the airfield just coming. But we're a little bit inside the turn, so we'll just straighten up to relax our turn rate. To get onto that, it's about an 80-degree approach, I think. That's the angle you're really looking for. Or the reciprocal of that obviously would be 260. So we can start extending flaps. And that will obviously change the attitude of the aeroplane. And we can now use throttle to control descent rate as we need to. And just bring it in. Oh, and for some reason the simulator is showing us the taxi in. It's rather interesting. I wonder why. I must have pressed something along the way. There are little glitches all over the simulator at the moment, so we're just going to go with it. It's actually really helpful. It's going to show us exactly where to go park. So let's go, and it wants us to go across the grass, which is interesting. I wonder why. I wonder if this is a discrepancy between a modelled airport and, or airfield I should say, and the stock airfields. because it seems to have the taxiways okay though. So we'll put the flaps back up on the way in. We can go and turn the landing lights back off and the strobes. And our fan club is waiting for us. Just straighten up. Okay, so parking brake back on, and you just starve the engine of mixture to make it die, and then obviously we can go and turn off the magnetos. We can go and turn the lights off, turn the pitot heat off, turn the avionics off, turn the batteries off, and we can go and actually there isn't a fuel shut-off on the selector. It's either one side or the other or both. But there is a shut-off here. It's in by default. You can shut off the fuel there as well. So there we go. It's interesting that it's still got power to... Oh, we've still got the standby battery arm. That's why. So there you go. A walk around of the Cessna, getting it ready for flight and taking it for a quick fly around to Western from Orbex. And we had a little look there at pulling flight plans into the tablet and how you can use that, and then you can transfer it into the avionics. We had a little look at the website as well, where you can program flight plans, and you can do the same trick, where you can then load them in here, they'll appear in here, and then it's very nicely done. So the procedures I was following are fully documented in the document I'll put in the notes. So if you go and follow the link to that, you can go and get your own copy of it. Hopefully that's been interesting for you, and I'll see you again soon. Obviously I'll be doing lots and lots of videos of this nature in the weeks and months ahead. So there's lots for me to learn, and lots for you to learn, and lots for me to relearn as well. So I'm having to forget a lot of what I knew about 2020 and relearn for 2024, particularly around the keyboard. So it's going to be hard work, but also fun. So I'll see you soon. Take care.